So, you know what? Something's really been interesting me. We've known each other for quite some time, and you keep babbling on about your religion, Pantheostoicism, your religion.
It's not a religion. It's not a religion.
Oh, pardon me. I didn't mean to offend you.
That is an offense, yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it a sin?
No, it's just an offense.
Oh, okay.
We live in the age of being offended. Haven't you noticed?
Okay. Not sin. We don't live in the age of sin anymore.
No,
it's
there's
just
no more
offense.
sin. There's no more sanctity. There's no more sin. There's just offense.
Yes, that's the only thing you can do. You can't sin anymore. You can just offend people.
And some offenses are acceptable and some of them are unacceptable.
Yes.
There's no more good or bad anymore. No. Metaphysics is dead. Metaphysics is dead.
It's no. Truth, goodness, and beauty are all at the whim of our local community college administrator. So, but I do want to ask you about your belief on God. It's a rather unorthodox view, you could say.
Okay.
Talk about your inspiration for it.
I'll try to make it very simple. I was raised and educated in a thoroughly dualistic metaphysics. That is to say, there is the world of matter that we can see and somewhat understand with our senses and our reasoning and our abstractions. And then there is the world of abstractions in and of themselves. For instance, there's the world of mathematics. The Pythagorean theorem, it was thought by this dualistic metaphysics, the Pythagorean theorem would be true for any right triangle, whether or not there was a Euclid or a Alex Madagian or a Mark McIntyre or anybody in the universe. If there were no one in the universe, the Pythagorean theorem would be true. Objectively true. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
But we can't touch A squared equals E. Math. We can't touch math. We can't touch math.
Right. So I was raised in this dualistic metaphysics where there is the world of material, observable reality, and there's a corresponding world of non-material, or what some people like to call spiritual reality. Okay? And Western Christian philosophy carried this notion all the way from the time of Plato all the way through up until about the time of Thomas, up until about the time of Teilhard de Chardin. There were some philosophers and theologians who speculated that it was not the case, that there was really a monism, let us say a single reality, a single existence. But it wasn't until Teilhard de Chardin, the French Jesuit theologian and philosopher, in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. He died in 1959. The day he predicted he would die, by the way. He was the first one to amalgamate the process philosophy of Henri Bergson, another Frenchman philosopher, who believed and thought that the entire realm of existence was one thing, not two things. So there is no separation between the material world and the spiritual world, or the non-material world.
So
there is just existence. There's just being as being, ends qua ends.
So what made you want to latch on to this Chardin fellow?
Because of the principle of parsimony. And the principle of parsimony is expressed that the simpler a theory or an explanation is, the better it is, because there are fewer moving parts and therefore fewer moving assumptions that one has to make. It's very simple.
All right. Well, please elaborate. Enlighten us.
Well, it's you can imagine the
Chardinize us, I should say.
You can imagine that the old dualism of Plato and Aristotle carried through up until the time of Thomas Aquinas was an ideal arrangement to send out the theology of Christianity. Because why? The Christian notion is that there's a non-material world inhabited by God. Three persons in this God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You can't see them, you can't taste them, you can't touch them, you can't hear them. They're non-material entities. However, they somehow interact. We don't know how, mechanically. We don't know how they interact, but we're told that they interact in the world. In fact, they are responsible for the world that we see. Okay? So, the dualism is ideal match for Christianity. Aquinas sees this and he says, Eureka! Oh, I got it! I got it! Will you? I'll steal Aristotle's
That's exact. This is a direct quote from Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah, he's sitting in his cell one day.
Eureka! I got it!
Yes,
I'm also...
He's sitting in his cell one day, right?
I'm having a seizure, too.
Right? Resisting the urge to masturbate, and he says to himself, I found it. I found it. This is it. This dualism is perfect to express Catholic theology.
Right,
and it will drive all of the heretics crazy because I can explain everything now. I can explain everything that happens. I can explain why babies are born without arms and legs. I can explain the evils of natural disasters. I can explain sin. I can explain resurrection. I can explain redemption. I can explain everything using this philosophical skeletal structure on which I can hang the flesh and the muscularity of Christianity.
Most people just say meat, but okay, sure. Yeah. The brain and the heart.
Well, meat has several
connotations. The vital organs, yeah.
Yeah, the meat organ has several connotations.
Yeah. So how would you define God as opposed to the Western dualism? As with this notion, Chardinian notion, rather than Thomas Aquinasian notion, the aqua notion.
Yeah, I define God as ends qua ends, being as being. In other words, existence is what we mean when we talk about God. Everything that exists, even dog shit, is God. Even dog shit. Okay, all right. And if you even consult the dualists, if you drive their logic to its conclusion, they have to admit that even dog shit is God, because everything is supposed to be created by this God. Okay? Everything's supposed to be created. So dog shit must be created by God. So therefore God must be dog shit, at least.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't really follow that, because
you don't want to follow it. You don't want to follow it because it's a vile, cheap concept, and it's offensive to you.
Now you're just jumping to my own conclusions, which don't exist. You're kind of just jumping into a lake.
Right.
No, I mean, if I create something, that doesn't necessarily make it me. It is my create. Sure it is. So say my little brother gets a box of Legos and he builds some creation with that. That's him. That Lego creation is him.
Have you taken a good look at his Legos? Have you taken a good look? They are him. No one could build Legos like that. No one on the planet could do that.
That's really the grand. I mean, you don't see them as two separate beings. His creations.
No.
Really,
everything
is fascinating.
Everything is one thing, and we call that one thing existence, or we call it being.
Interesting.
And that way we can really explain everything.
So out of interest, because you've mentored me for quite a while, are you crediting part of my soul? Because my essence definitely has been affected by you. Is it fair to say that a certain part of me is you?
We started, if you will recall, with the belief that we are one soul in two separate bodies. If you recall.
You started with that, and then I just didn't stop it. Okay?
You didn't object to it. You didn't object to it.
Well, you were funny about it. No. You're like a good car salesman.
No, but I mean, let's examine your relationship with your parents. Okay. You are very much a product of your parents.
That's a little bit different because there's literal genetic output in there, but I am physically.
I see. So employ the dualism again. Okay, that's physical. Okay, but the interaction of my abstractions upon your abstractions, that's not real. That's what I'm trying to ask you, because. Are you inferring that the relationship that my parents literally in creating me is in a certain degree relatable to how you've affected me through your mentoring of me? Yes. There's a causal relationship between the founding fathers and writers of our Constitution and the fact that I am a fundamental constitutionalist. Yes.
Wait. Now we're talking about
No, I'm giving you examples as I go.
Pick a one.
I'm on point. I'm on point here. Okay. Okay. If were it not for Edmund Burke, were it not for John Locke, were it not for Thomas Jefferson, would I have come up with the ideas of liberty, of individual liberty, upon which our Constitution is based? No, no. I'm not smart enough to do that. Really, I'm really not smart enough to do that. Okay? So, yes, have people had a causal effect upon the maturation of Mark McIntyre's mind, soul, if you want to call it a soul, fine. Yes, yes. Just as your parents had a genetic causal relationship with you physically.
I'd say that we're doing apples and oranges here because
because you hold on to the dualism.
No, it's not a holding on. It's a literal scientific fact. You had absolutely
both fruit. They're both fruit. Apples and oranges are both fruit.
We're comparing zucchinis and barley, and I love them both. Zucchinis and barley wheat.
Broccoli and asparagus. I love them both.
You know, I mean, we could say just about anything is food, and I eat it. Yeah. To that sense, yeah.
Don't you see what I'm getting at? You know, the dualism has caused innumerable problems, both philosophically and especially theologically. Okay? Let me give you an example. Christians love to go on about the resurrection. We just had Easter come by. Okay? So they go on and on about the resurrection. They go on and on about the ascension and the assumption. Okay? So-called physical things that all of a sudden magically become non-physical.
I mean, by you adding the word magically, you've already
they can't explain it. They don't. There's no tractatus in theology that explains the mechanism where the body of Christ rises into heaven.
There is no tractatus that explains how the entire physical universe came into being out of nothing.
Yes, there is. No, I didn't say it came into being out of nothing. It always is, and it always will be. I didn't say that.
The entire universe.
It doesn't need a creator. It is itself.
The universe does need some organizational structure because of the second law of thermodynamics.
It is its own organizational structure. It's inherent in it.
The universe we can observe is it going into entropy, which is more and more chaos. It is slowly falling apart. This is scientifically
observed. What happens when it falls apart? Is there nothing? Does it arise out of nothing and go into nothing?
What happens is that it goes into complete statusness. It's just everything is at equilibrium. Nothing moves. Oh, thank you. Everything is we can scientifically observe everything is at equilibrium.
Oh, scientifically, yes. Oh,
yes.
Here we are. Let's get our lab coats on. Let's push into the laboratory and watch the universe. Oh, do you go to the laboratory every day and do experiments on the stasis, the upcoming stasis of the universe? Oh, please write a book about that. Oh, I'd like to read that book.
It's called the second law of thermodynamics. Everything in the universe reverts to.
Well, that law should be repealed. That law should be definitely repealed. We should disobey that law. And what if I do disobey that law? Am I going to be clapped into jail because I broke the law of thermodynamics? No. The word law is only just a principle. It's not a law. Good grief.
If you can demonstrate scientifically how it's wrong, I'm sure you will get a Nobel Prize tomorrow if you can demonstrate through empirical observation. I'm just saying that we have observed the universe go from a place of high organization to more and more chaos, and it has to come from some organizational place. Something needs to add that first organization so it can get to the point where we are, where it's more chaotic. Yes, look at me and my evil scientific ways, and I am the blasphemer. I shall be like Galileo. I'm excommunicated from your church.
Did you just have lunch with Richard Dawkins? Little Dickie Dawkins has infected your brain? Or Michael Shermer has infected your brain?
Speaking of little Dickie Dawkins, I do think that we owe Richard Dawkins a bit of a talk.
No, I want to stay on this topic. I want to stay on it because we haven't finished this.
How much time do we have? I don't want to.
Oh, it's 15. Well, we just went for 15 minutes.
Yeah, move along.
Right, let me wrap it up.
Apples and oranges. Go for it, please.
Parsimony is the idea that the simplest explanation is probably a better explanation than something very, very complex.
Occam's razor. Is it the
Occam's
same
razor,
thing?
yes, Occam's razor is thou shalt not multiply beings without necessity. All right. If you don't need to invent something to explain something, then don't invent that thing. Just keep it simple. And the simplest idea is that existence is now, always has been, and always will be. Therefore, everything that exists, including dog shit, has existence. And this existence we refer to as God.
And these are the Holy Scriptures of Mark McIntyre.
The reality, truth, goodness, and beauty of Pope Mark the First.
Cheers.
Cheers. That was a good one, Alex. Thank you.
You bet.